may I request Rotarian Arthur Kanegis to give from the Rotary E-Club of World Peace in USA to give a brief introduction and also to introduce the most awaited speaker of the day, the chief guest, Rotary International President, Gordan McInally. Over to you, Rotarian Arthur.
Well, thank you so much. You are such an extraordinary group of Rotarians coming together here. You know, our founder, Paul Harris, who you saw in that little opening video, he said, the years ahead reserve for Rotary a most difficult and arduous task: to heal the war wounds of a war-ravaged world, to change enemies into friends, to replace armed struggle with goodwill and friendship. This is the superhuman task to which we all must undertake. Well, I want to thank all of you for being the superhumans, because that is the task that Rotary is taking on. And I'd especially like to salute Ozwem, who is background noise. Please be muted if you're not a speaker. And I'd especially like to thank Ozwem, because he has really, under the most arduous of circumstances, carried on a superhuman effort to bring all this huge group together. And he's done so much as a peace ambassador, as the founder of Soccer for Peace, of working with youth, of stopping polio, of building clean water for people in his villages. He has just been an extraordinary, exemplary Rotarian, and I thank him for bringing us together in these extraordinary mega meetings with all of the key people of Rotary. You know, as people come together in these kind of groups, this is the way we build Rotary into such a powerful force that it can truly touch the world, that it really can do the peace building and the things we're doing. I mean, look, we wiped out polio. Let's wipe out war. I mean, we can do it. And that is a superhuman task. But I think we're going to have an incredible speaker here who has been undertaking that superhuman task. I mean, you know, so many of you in the questions you submitted talked about how we want to bring more youth into and the importance of youth. Well, you know, Gordan started off as a young man. He was 26 when he joined Rotary, and he has done so many things, as you know. He really doesn't even need the introduction, but he's been, you know, of course, not only president in Scotland, where he is, but in Britain and Ireland, a Rotary International president. He has done so many things to help lift rodeo. We had him in a previous meeting, so I don't have to go through all of them. But maybe he asked me to keep this intro short, so maybe I'll just mention something that maybe you don't know about him, and that is that he builds walking sticks, decorates walking sticks in a special tradition there in Scotland. So here to walk us into the future, let me present our wonderful Rotary International President, Gordan McInally.
Well, thank you so much, Arthur, and thank you for keeping the introduction brief. I still get embarrassed when I hear people reading out the whole list of things that I've done, because like every one of you, I am a Rotarian and I am simply trying to do what I can for Rotary where I can. And it's amazing to think that it is almost exactly a year since I last had the opportunity of being in one of these mega meetings and the opportunity to address you all. It's been an extremely quick year, as you can imagine, and some ways it's been a lifetime, and in some ways it's been 5 minutes. I've almost got to the stage that I realize what it means to be Rotary International President now, and in 2 weeks I will be putting past before my name. It's been one of the most incredible years in my life. As I have been telling people recently, and I'm very conscious that my good friend and the aide to the 24-25 President, Tom Gump, is on the call. If my voice dries up, Tom Gump will be able to give my speech because he's heard it so often. But this has been a year like no other. If ever I write a book, and I'm not certain that I will, but if ever I write a book, the title will be A Year Like No Other, because that is exactly what the last 12 months and more has been like. Yeah, you could not imagine the opportunities, the things that I've had the chance to see, and the wonderful work that we're doing all around the world. But I stress the fact we are doing all around the world, because I am always acutely conscious that the work of Rotary is not done by the president. The work of Rotary is done by every one of our members, 1.4 million of them that encircle this world. And I will be forever grateful to our members for the work that they have done. And that means I will be forever grateful to the 194 people that are currently on this call for the work that they have been doing in the last 12 months. As everybody knows, and it says it on the screen behind me, this is the year that we have been trying to create hope in the world. And you may recall previously I spoke about how I came up with the concept of a theme that is create hope in the world, how I had seen hope created for that lady in Thailand who gave me that precious, precious shell that I see every day in life. I've seen it today here at my home in Scotland, where I'm having a quick couple of days en route to Switzerland and Holland. I still think of that lady when she gave me that shell and told me how she had lost all hope to continue living, but that Rotary, by supporting her in the aftermath of the tsunami of 2004, had given her the hope to carry on. I think of the young people I worked with in Rwanda, going all the way back to 2004, the survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and the fact that time and time again they said that Rotary had given them hope to carry on in life. And so that was the genesis of Create Hope in the World. And what we've seen in the last 12 months in particular is just how hope has been created in the world, thanks to this wonderful organization, this wonderful family that we call Rotary. And I thought today I might just share with you some of the examples. I could speak for 24 hours or more if I gave you every example, but I thought I might share with you just some of the examples of where I have seen hope created in the world. And I want to talk about the individuals for whom hope has been created. I often think in Rotary we're good at talking of the big picture, and the big picture is very important. We're good at talking of the big numbers, the billions of children that we have vaccinated against polio, the 1,700 plus peace fellows that we have created in the course of the last 25 years, the fact that we have 1.4 million members. But for me, it's about the individual people that we touch, the individual beneficiaries. And I've been so fortunate this year to have met many of those beneficiaries. And so today I'd like to take you on a tour of the world and tell you about some of them. And the first person I'd like to tell you about comes from Pakistan. His name is Ahmed. And in October of 2022, I had the opportunity to vaccinate Ahmed against polio. I'm sure many of the people on this call have had similar opportunities over the years. But in my mind's eye, I can still see those 2 precious drops of polio vaccine leave the bottle and land on Ahmed's tongue. And the thought that went through my mind was that here, thanks to Rotary, is a young boy who will not have to run the risk of suffering from that crippling disease called polio. And then I also see his mother standing beside him, and the look of sheer gratitude in her eyes as she realized that her son was going to be safe. Her son would not run that risk that so many people have suffered in the past. And of course, that means that for Ahmed and for his family, hope has been created in their world. Hope has been created thanks to Rotary, thanks to each and every one of you. And then we move from Pakistan all the way to South America to Argentina. And any of you who are in Singapore will recall that I spoke of Kevin from Argentina. I always think Kevin is a rather unlikely name for a 16-year-old Argentinian, but Kevin in Argentina, who is being educated in the Escola Diana in Buenos Aires, thanks to the support of the Rotary Club of Buenos Aires through global grant funding. So that means thanks to every one of you who has ever contributed to our wonderful Rotary Foundation. Kevin can neither hear nor speak. And he told me through his interpreter, his sign language interpreter, that he was hoping to graduate school this summer, this is right now, and then hoping to go on to college and study to become a motor mechanic. His teachers told me that that was quite likely a path that Kevin would follow. He would go on, he would leave school, he would obtain a trade of motor mechanic. He would then be able to make a life for himself, support himself, who knows, in the fullness of time, possibly even have his own family. So again, for Kevin, hope was being created in his world, but it was only being created thanks to Rotary. And from Argentina, I'd like to flip to Mongolia, that large country sandwiched between China and Russia. And in Mongolia last fall, I had the opportunity to meet Miga. Miga, at the age of 14, was sitting in her school library, poring over the novels of Harry Potter. And I'm sure many of you will be aware of the Harry Potter novels. She was reading them in English. She wants to ultimately become an English teacher. That library was provided in that school in Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, by Rotary. She was learning English thanks to Rotary, and she was hoping in the fullness of time to become an English teacher. She was having hope created in her world thanks to Rotary. I think there may be somebody who's unmuted. Maybe you could check that you're muted. So for Mongolia, I'd now like to move to Texas, USA, and more specifically to Houston, where I had the opportunity during the year to sit for some time with Joe. Joe is homeless. Joe came to have breakfast served at a facility that was being supported by one of the Houston Rotary clubs. And I had the good fortune to serve Joe breakfast that morning and to sit for a few minutes with him and have some conversation. Joe told me that that was the first hot meal he had had in over 24 hours. He also told me that I and the other people around that table were the first conversation he had had in over 24 hours. And he told us that he felt better for that. He told us that he had some hope to carry on thanks to that. And so again, just one of the many individuals that I have had the chance to meet over the course of this last year. I'd like to tell you about two more individuals, and the first of those is a 4-year-old child called Anna, who lives in Manila in the Philippines. Anna was born with a congenital heart defect, a hole in her heart. Anna's parents are so poor they could not have conceived of being able to provide the surgery that she required to have that hole in her heart corrected. A relatively routine operation in the developed world. But Anna was having her surgery, and I was fortunate enough to stand by the operating table as Anna had her surgery and witness the wonderful work being done by the young cardiac pediatric surgeon, thanks to a Rotary Foundation Global Grant. Thanks to each and every one of you. And for me, the most significant thing and the most poignant thing about that whole episode was that as I was standing there watching this operation take place, watching 4-year-old Anna have her life saved, I received a WhatsApp message from home in Scotland. I didn't read it while I was standing by the operating table, but when I left the operating room, I read it, and I discovered a photograph of my then 4-year-old granddaughter, Ivy. Some of you may have seen her on stage in Singapore. I saw Ivy with a beaming smile on her face, ready to go and attend elementary school for her first ever day at school. And as I looked at the photograph of Ivy and reflected on what I had seen happen to Anna, I thought that thanks to Rotary, ultimately, Anna would be able to go and start school and live a normal, a happy and achieving life. And so for Anna, hope was being created, but it was only being created thanks to Rotary. The last individual I would like to talk about is a young boy called David. And David is also an elementary school pupil. And I met David only 2 weeks ago in New Zealand, because after the Singapore Convention, Heather and I had the opportunity to travel to both Australia and New Zealand and to see some of the wonderful work being done in the field of mental health and wellness, which, as you know, is one of our focuses for this particular point in time. I was able to watch David as part of a class who were taking part in an initiative called Think and Be Me, a wonderful initiative run by a Rotarian called Kat Levine that allows people of elementary school age, 10, 11 years, to be able to understand their own emotions, to be able to talk more freely about their own emotions. And as a consequence of that, be able to control their feelings, be able to prevent anxiety, to be able to prevent them feeling low and depressed. And this is an initiative that is going so well in New Zealand. There are many thousands of young children who have benefited already from this particular initiative, and many more will in the fullness of time. And it's also an initiative that will show great promise in terms of being scalable and replicable. Just like the other wonderful initiative that I have seen in India called Wellness in a Box. Two superb initiatives helping young people deal with their emotions and deal with their feelings. These are only some, just a snapshot of some of the wonderful things that we have seen and where we have seen hope created in the world. But of course, the Rotary wheel turns, and in 2 weeks' time, we will move on to a new Rotary year. Many things will change. The good news is you're going to have a new president, a much better looking president than the current president. And you will also have a new annual theme. It's going to be magic in Rotary next year. But what doesn't change is the need for Rotary and the responsibility that we have. And I'd like to close with one final story that I think illustrates very well the fact that there is a responsibility placed on us, and the fact that the future of people like Miga and Kevin and Joe and Ahmed and Anna and David is so important. And it's a story that was told by Toni Morrison, the Nobel laureate for literature, during her acceptance speech in Stockholm City Hall in 1993. You may have heard it before, but it's worth hearing again. It's the story of an old man who is purported to be a genius and who lives on a hill outside the city of Venice in Italy. And one day, two small boys thought that they could get the better of this genius, this man who could answer any question that was posed of him. So the two small boys caught a little bird, and one of the boys held the bird in his hand, and they made their way up the hill because they were going to beat the old man. So they got to the man, and one of the boys said, "Old man, can you tell us if this bird in my hand is alive or dead?" Without a moment's hesitation, the old man said, "Son, if I tell you the bird is dead, you will open your hands and it will fly away. If I tell you the bird is alive, you will crush your hands and you will kill it, because in your hands you hold the power over its life and death." And that, my friends, is how it is for us in Rotary. In Rotary, we hold the power of our beneficiaries in our hands, the power of their future, sometimes even the power over their lives and death. So I urge you to continue to create hope in the world, because that really is the magic of Rotary. It has been an honour and a privilege, the honour and the privilege of a lifetime to serve as your president. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Thank you for all the support that you have given. Each and every one of you is a credit to the badge you wear, and I am proud, very proud, to belong to the same organisation as you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, President Gordan. The stories and those anecdotes that you shared are very much inspiring. And I'm sure everybody, like there are many people have got a lot of question to ask you. So may I now request past President Arthur Kanegis to moderate the question answer session?
Yes, well, thank you for that extraordinary talk, and especially for touching on individuals, because individuals are one of the things that Rotary does so well. Touching one person at a time, we end up touching the world. Now, the questions we've had come into we had almost 100 questions, so there's no way we can ask all of them, but they do seem to fall into three categories. And the first one I would say is personal things. When people have asked about you and your feelings, experiencing things, and that includes and now I apologize for bad pronunciation of names, but Lanjiwi, Eric, Donna, Keith, David, Victoria, Osweb, and Alexander asked questions about how you felt in your term. What were sort of some of the biggest challenges? How did you plow through them? What ways did you handle some of the lowest points? And what made you feel most comfortable? And what did you feel had the biggest impact? What was your emotional journey in your service this year?
Well, that's a very good question, and a very important question. I have to say, one of the biggest challenges that we had, especially during the first 6 months of our year, was making sure that our luggage kept pace with us. We lost our luggage so many times during the first 6 months of the year. We always seemed to be in the next destination before our luggage arrived in the previous destination. And that was certainly a challenge. But I think one of the biggest challenges is people say, how do you maintain your energy? How do you maintain the spirit that you have? And the answer to that is very simple. You gain energy and you gain inspiration from the people that you meet along the way. And we have met so many wonderful people along the way. One of the things I said at the very beginning of the year was that I was anxious to be able to get out and meet as many members as possible to say thank you to them. And that's something that I think is very important. And also to see the projects that we're doing. And I think we've been able to see both of these things and do all of that. But in terms of the energy, you gain energy from the people you're with. And everywhere we have gone, we have seen such energy and such passion for Rotary. There are times it's tiring. I'm not going to deny it. I mean, today we arrived back from Chicago just yesterday afternoon. And prior to that, we'd been in New Zealand and in Australia and then in Singapore. So we're on the road a great deal. But I'm a great believer that I can rest in July, and I'm going to push on for the next 2 weeks. And there's still a lot to be done over the next couple of weeks. Still a lot of people to thank over the next couple of weeks. But we have seen some amazing things. I touched just on some of it there. I could touch on many more. We have seen some low points as well. Seen some low points in terms of situations where Rotary is needed, and we all know how much Rotary is needed in the field of peace building at the moment. I would love to have the power to walk into the war zones of the world and say, stop this war. I don't have that power. Rotary doesn't have that power, but I do believe that Rotary has the power to stop conflict from beginning by building peace from the ground level up. And I think that's a very important thing going forward.
Wow, thank you. Now, the next category was peace, and in the category of peace, we had people like Quanta asking about how can Rotary make peace pivotal in all of its service to humanity, and Barbara, Barbara Mueller, how can we move the needle for peace in every club, and Kat Haber, how might Rotary use its global good to free the world from this nuclear threat, and Benu on how can we preserve the peace? And Richard Denton, how can Rotarians individually and collectively create peace in the world? And Carla, what do you think is the best role for Rotary in its international work to support peace in districts in dealing with these serious issues of conflict? Well, that's almost a separate question, but that first one, they're all like one big question for you about creating peace in the world and the key role that Rotary can play in doing that moving forward.
Well, I touched on that in my previous remarks, but I'm a great believer that Rotary's role is to build peace from the ground level up. As you know, I'm a dentist by profession, and I'm a great believer in the concept of prevention being better than cure. And I'm sure anybody who has spent time in the dental office, in the dental chair, being tortured by their dentist would also agree that prevention is better than cure. And I believe that our role is to help prevent conflict from starting, to create peace and to build peace from the ground level up, to recognize that peace is a process. That peace is not simply the absence of war, but peace is a process that we can build by giving people better education, by giving people better healthcare, by giving people a better environment in which to live, by giving people clean water and sanitation. And these are all the things that will build peace and help reduce the incidence of conflict starting. Our partners in the peace process, the Institute for Economics and Peace, do some wonderful research and have curated some wonderful data that shows those areas of the world where we are seeing better living conditions, better societies, are the areas of the world where we are seeing less conflict. And I also believe personally that our work in the mental health space helps prevent conflict from starting, because so many of the conflicts in the world, and by conflicts I don't mean large-scale wars, but so many of the conflicts that we see in the world, domestic violence, violence in general, so many of these link back to poor mental well-being. So if we can improve the mental well-being of society, we can also build peace. And I think that is the most important role that we have. I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier about being able to go and tell people to stop wars. It's about stopping wars from starting, stopping conflict from starting.
I love that. Stopping wars from starting, and I love bringing some sanity to the world. I mean, that's crucially, absolutely what we need is a little sanity in this world. And several of the next questions were actually about places of insanity in the world, and that was particularly Gaza and Ukraine, with numerous people being moved and concerned about those two places. And I guess I will read you one specific question on that because it actually, well, maybe I should do it as a follow-up. Well, the specific one was, might you be willing to meet with 550 of our young Ukrainian students in an online sharing of visions, words of hope fueled by purpose, power, and possibility leads to peace by Barbara Ledger. So that was a very specific one of the several on Ukraine and Gaza.
Well, I would love to have the opportunity to meet with people from Ukraine, the young people from Ukraine. I have tried on many occasions to get to Ukraine, to actually go and meet with our members and people there. That has not been possible, and that is probably one of the regrets I have as my term comes to a conclusion. I have every intention of getting there at some point, though. Because we've got to recognize that, you know, the youth is so important, and we've got to support our young people and help them through what has been some extremely trying times. But above all, we've got to recognize the need for us to be true to our ideals of being a humanitarian organization, and to recognize that we do not take sides in any conflict. We are there to support the people affected by conflict, and we've been trying very hard to do that in many areas of conflict in the world. Sometimes it's more difficult than others because Rotary has a larger presence in some areas than others. But the important thing is that we have to remain true to our ideal of being a humanitarian organization that doesn't take sides in a conflict, but does care for the people that are affected in any conflict.
Oh, well, very excellent, excellent. Now, a number of the questions were about attracting more young people. Of course, you joined as a young person yourself. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you think Rotary could really bring in more youth into the organization?
Well, I've been on record from day one as saying that I want to see Rotary existing everywhere in a style to suit everyone who wants to be a part of us. And that means that we need to promote all styles of Rotary Club, because some people want to engage with Rotary in one specific manner, other people want to engage in different manners. And so that's why I am such an advocate of satellite clubs, companion clubs, call them what you will, also e-clubs, passport clubs, cause-based clubs, because all these different styles of club allow people to engage with Rotary in a way that suits them. We don't want to be forcing round pegs into square holes or square pegs into round holes. We want to allow people to come and engage with us on their terms. If they have a particular passion, we need to encourage them to come and develop that passion. But we also need to engage with these people when they do join us. President-elect Stephanie has this wonderful phrase about clubs should be irresistible. Make your clubs irresistible, and then people will flock to join us. And she's absolutely right. If the clubs are irresistible, people will want to join us. But if we bring people into our clubs and then marginalize them, ignore them while we go out and find the next new member, then why would we be surprised that they would drift away again? I'm a keen gardener, and again, it's an analogy I've used before. But if I put a plant in my garden, I don't just stick a plant in and then ignore it while I go on to look for the next plant and develop the next part of my garden. I want to nurture the new plant. I want to make sure that it's developed roots. And that's how it should be with our new members. We need to make sure that they develop good, strong Rotary roots before we rush out to bring in more and more members. And that way, if we close the back door, the door where people leave us so quickly, and we all know the statistics about that, if we close that back door where people leave us, then we will see good, sustainable growth within this organisation. And we need to grow because the needs are increasing every year.
Make Rotary irresistible. It make it such a joy to be serving our fellow human beings that, of course, we come back, that we stick with it and we carry on. I love that answer. Now, number of people asked about the environment. That's crucially on many people's mind. And Arya, for example, said, "How can we generate awareness and love for the environment?"
Well, the great thing now is that the environment is one of our areas of focus and has been for a couple of years. And I think that is a great thing because that recognizes the importance of the environment, for one thing, but it also allows people to work in the environment and obtain foundation funding to do so. The great thing about working in the environment is we are connecting very well with that younger demographic that we seek to connect with, because that's the demographic that are particularly concerned about the environment. My children's generation are very concerned about the environment. I'm concerned about the environment for their sakes, because I realize that, I'm not going to be around forever, but my children and my grandchildren are going to be around for longer, hopefully. And we need to make sure that we take care of the planet, because whatever else we do, if we destroy the planet on which we live, then there's no point in doing all the other stuff that we do if we allow our planet to be destroyed. So we all bear a personal responsibility to take care of our environment. And through Rotary, we can now do larger scale environmental projects, and we can gain access to global grant funding to do so. So it's a win-win situation, but the environment is a very important part of what we do. There's only one Earth, and we must take care of it.
Absolutely. One Earth, and we all are taking care, it is our big responsibility to take care of that, because otherwise we don't have a home planet. So now, Barbara Kahn, and a number of people asked about club dues, but she struck me because she was talking about people working in a rural area in flood area and hardly any rain, and it's really difficult for people to be able to even join to pay their club dues, but they want to serve. What can be done about that?
Well, that's a thorny issue, and usually the question of club dues comes from the concept of changing exchange rates. I've been in parts of the world where, of course, the exchange rate against the dollar may have changed significantly, and it's costing them more in their local terms against the dollar to pay their dues, and it's a very difficult question. We're not in a position yet to offer incremental differences in dues depending on where you are in the world. It's interesting. I've heard a lot of people complain if their currency becomes very weak against the dollar, complaining and wanting to have a reduction in their dues. I've yet to hear anybody whose currency has become strong against the dollar wanting to pay more in dues. So that's an interesting dichotomy. Of course, people can be engaged in Rotary in so many different ways. Rotary Community Core, which allows people to be engaged in Rotary without being a member of a Rotary club. And so I think the important thing is that we have to maintain a certain structure, and the structure that we maintain at present is that we have a universal dues structure across the world. We work very hard. People might not think it, but we work very hard to keep these dues at a reasonable level. Please don't think that the money is being wasted in any way. The Rotary International take great care and steward very carefully our members' dollars, and we will continue to do so, believe me.
Thank you for that. Now, Victoria asks, what's your future in the coming years?
Well, my future in the very short term is to sleep as much as possible during the month of July. I am very privileged that you may well know I've been elected to become a trustee of the Rotary Foundation as of July 1, and I'm looking forward, as a very keen supporter of the foundation, looking forward to having the opportunity to help shape its future and continue to shape Rotary's future through the foundation for a 4-year term starting on the 1st of July. I've also been made a Peace Laureate for another foundation operating out of Southeast Asia, and I look forward to working with them as well. So whether you like it or not, you've probably not heard the last of Gordan McInally.
Well, we're so glad you're going to be sticking with us, and maybe one day we should have a trustees meeting here on the mega Zooms. But in any case, let me assure all of you, we obviously can't get to all the wonderful questions about how could we do with cancer, what we did for polio, and just so many questions. But here's the good news. Right after this meeting, we're going to email all of your questions to Gordan, so he will have all of them. And if there's anything that he particularly wants to reach back to us on, we can reach out to you and share that with you. Now, don't expect that. We're not going to put more work on Gordan, but I just want you to know at least he'll have them in front of him. So thank you, everyone, for asking questions and for joining us in this extraordinary opportunity with and the wonderful answers we've received from Gordan. I'll turn it back to you, Smita, for the next step.
Thank you, President, for clarifying the various questions, doubts we had. And the biggest question is, as Arthur says, that when it comes to payment of the dues, club dues, then members becomes, they become very shaky. This is, I think, the problem in all the clubs around the world we have. So before Arthur Kanegis is going to show some documentary, I would like to request OGM Essery to felicitate Gordan McInally.
Thank you so much, Smita-ji. Can we call on Barbara Muller to actually take a vote of thanks to the RI president, if possible? Is she online?
I am, yes. And you would like me to thank our wonderful president? Is that what you're asking? Because I have so much love in my heart for Gordan. I have so much peace in my heart because he has given us the peace message over and over. He said the world is crying out for peace. Yes, we know that. And it's up to us Rotarians to bring the world into that peace mentality, because it begins with every conversation. As Gordan said today, it begins with all of us. We can't expect our government officials to bring peace to the world until we let them realize we care about you. We care about every Rotarian and every human. Gordan, your stories today about the little girl with the heart operation, your stories today from Arthur about you carrying a walking stick, creating walking sticks. Let's all walk into peace. Let's make peace this our prayer. We can do it. As Rotarians, have a moment of peace as you begin every Rotary Club meeting. Have that moment when you say what you have done. Pick somebody in your club to talk about what they have done recently for peace. And with that, I bless each of you And if you are available, as you see behind me, I would like you to work for Ending War 101 and attend our global meeting this Friday at 8 in the morning, and bless all of you. I look at our zoo. What does she have behind her? Peace is possible. Our zoo is in Turkey, suffered the throes of a horrible natural disaster. But did she give up? No, we cannot give up. When she said peace is possible, now they have the Turkey Hour where they give hope to the citizens. Everybody's not a Rotarian, friends. We have to bring everybody into our arena for peace. So bring your friends, make your city an international city of peace, and be sure you go to Peace Polls, RotaryPeacePolls.org. As you look at Larry Strober, you will see why we believe so firmly that a peace poll reminds your community that peace is possible. Again, all of you today made my day, and I thank you. Arthur, you were a fabulous host, and all of you who were hostesses and hostess today, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Gordan, you deserve a saint's, I don't know what we call it, but a saint's stick as you walk through the world. God bless you.
Thank you. Now I request Arthur Kanegis to show the presentation.
Thank
You
you
are
so much,
muted.
Barbara. Thank you so much, Barbara, and everyone for this extraordinary program. We were so moved by what OSWAM's been doing in pulling together these clubs that we temporarily put aside our work in promoting our film, "The World Is My Country," about an extraordinary world citizen who lived above these nations that divide us, who really had an incredible vision for how we the people can actually, literally, create the conditions that prevent war, just as Gordan McInally said, so they don't happen in the first place. And what he pointed out is that what we do already is that we already prevent war when we inside all the nations. Every nation on earth makes it illegal to kill people. It's just not illegal when you step outside of nations. So all we have to do is walk up that outlawing of killing people to the global level. Anyway, I'm going to show you just a very brief trailer from our film and invite you to come watch the film, because it does give us a picture of how we can create hope in the world. So in just a moment here, I'll share my screen, and I'm going to go to share screens. Here we go. And I will show you the trailer here. Just a minute. Optimize for sound, share sound, optimize video, share. All right.
Here's Gary Davis.
World citizen number one, Gary Davis.
Gary Davis.
Gary Davis.
Gary Davis.
Gary Davis.
Gary Davis.
Who, me?
You are about to hear from an everyday man with an extraordinary life story. He was an actor, a song and dance man who leapt off the Broadway stage onto the world stage in 1948, taking on cops, border guards, armies, and whole nations, showing us that we don't have to be awed by their props of power and control. For 65 years, as a citizen of no nation, only the world, Gary Davis made his own props of freedom, demonstrating that we, the people, can tear down the walls of oppression and write our own story. We can build a world that is constructive for all and destructive to none. A world in which all of us can truly say, the world is my country.
The world is my country. I think Rotary is a perfect example of that. I mean, we don't care about borders. We don't stop our giving and our love for each other at borders. We carry it out around the world. And, that really is the key. All these struggles that seem so impossible down here at this level of nation states, separate nation states fighting with each other, once we lift our vision to being citizens of the world, we the people have the power and the tools to truly build a world that works. And we would love to have you join us. Each week we have our People Powered Planet podcast. You can see on our little poster back here about People Powered Planet. And what we are working on is how do we actually create the nuts and bolts of how to build a world that does prevent war, where it doesn't happen in the first place? You know, inside nations, we still have violence that happens, but it's treated as a criminal justice matter. When if there's a terrorist act, the police never move in. One city doesn't retaliate against another and blow up whole neighborhoods and blocks, and they don't retaliate back and forth. You know, it's like a crazy way to solve problems. So we can lift ourselves to that higher vision. And one of the things I'd love to invite people to join us in is building the actual tools that can do what Gordan said, where wars don't happen in the first place. I mean, inside nations with a workable government, where we have a way we can take our disputes to court. I mean, take it for example, Europe. Europe had centuries of wars and 2 world wars, Germany and France fighting and killing each other. And then, you know what happened? They created the Council of Europe and did just what Paul Harris said. You know, they turned enemies into friends. Germany and France and all these countries that were fighting each other get along. In fact, as Barbara Mueller, who you heard from briefly, says in our movie, The World Is My Country, that once the European leaders came together, and many of them were inspired by Gary Davis, who took his act there in Strasbourg, where the European Union happened. Once they did this, and that whole time since then, 80 some years, not a single European country has fought a war against another country inside that union. They had fought centuries of wars. They stopped fighting wars. They actually did. There were civil wars, but nations took their disputes to court. They took it to court instead of fighting each other on the battlefield. So we can build a world, and I think the key is not to expect the existing nation states who are, you know, trying to protect their turf against the other, and the politicians get elected because, boy, we're going to get those bad guys and they're going to get the other bad guys. We, the people, have to do it. As Gordan said, it starts with us. And from the ground up, we have to build an interactive way that we can actually outlaw war in our world. And if you want to join us in that, you can come to peoplepoweredplanet.com or just go to theworldismycountry.com. I'll put that in the chat, and you can see how you can join us in building a world where each of us has the power to literally make peace and save our world from nuclear and ecological and all the other disasters that are threatening us. Once we take our rightful place as, instead of just being the governors of this small world, this spaceship Earth that we're all a part of. Thank you so much, everybody. I really love having you all in this meeting and look forward to having you join us in each of these. And, you know, let's build this mega meeting into an interactive platform where we truly are coming together as Rotarians and fulfilling the vision of Paul Harris.